got to start here with, can Indiana establish some vertical game against Notre Dame? Notre Dame's defense this year. Notre Dame only gave up 9 passing touchdowns. 6 came from USC and Louisville. Two top 20 passing offenses, 2 of the best offenses that they've played this season. Curtis Rourke, 13 of his 27 touchdown passes were explosive plays, that is 16 yards or longer. And he's tied for third most touchdowns at 20 yards of any quarterback in the playoff. Carson Beck and Cade Klubnik both have 8. When Indiana played Michigan, it was very alarming to me that they couldn't find some of these explosives and couldn't move the ball more consistently because of how well they had pushed people around on both sides of the ball. They've been so good on the line of scrimmage. Damien, big picture, having watched them against Michigan, and then they lost all their street cred against Ohio State. Everybody thinks they suck. Where are you at on? Where are you at on? Are you still drinking the Indiana haterade, or do you think they can be competitive in this game?
I think they can. I think that they can pass the ball well enough. Curtis Rourke has shown he can throw the ball. I think they run the ball well enough with Ellison. Like, they can be competitive. And let's talk about their defense. Like, number 2 rush defense, number 8 pass defense. Like, they have all the tools. Curt Cignetti has built a good foundation here, but it's just about, I think it's more about what Notre Dame is about, to be quite frank. Like, we have not seen Notre Dame play against any real competition other than service academies, which they play all the time. They play them pretty regularly, so they know how to figure them out. I think more of the pressure is Notre Dame ready for this matchup. I know you started this talking about Indiana, but I'm just not sold in anything that I've seen from Notre Dame so far. Like, I've kind of been out on them all year. I've been on record saying it. I'm not afraid to say it now. I'm more nervous that they're going to be the team that hasn't been in this situation, that hasn't played any real competition. Because at least, like, if you're Indiana, yeah, you lost some street cred to Ohio State, but there's a lot of things that you could have fixed, like 2 special teams plays. You would have been right back in that game. So you have some things from that matchup that you can build and you can improve on. Yeah, Notre Dame's just been running through their schedule, but again, who have they really played? Like, what do they have to correct? What do they have to really get in playoff mode? I don't really know. They don't have anything to go off of.
The interesting thing about this Notre Dame team is that they are fun, which is like, when's the last time a Notre Dame team has been fun? Like, Jeremiah Love is awesome. Riley Leonard is pretty fun. Chris, what do you make of Leonard in this matchup? And do they have to use his legs to win this game and win it convincingly, or can they figure something else out and maybe he doesn't have to run for 50, 80 yards to maximize what Notre Dame's offense can be?
I think you'll have to get him to run just so that's part of the game plan that the defense is going to have to account for, because Indiana's got a pretty good pass rush. And so if you can get them to overcommit, go too far out sometimes, if that opens up a pass line for Riley Leonard he's like a really good runner who has no idea how to, like, slide or take a tackle well. He gets blown up every other time he's running the ball, but he is a good runner. And so I think that's something to see here. Indiana stopped the run pretty well against Ohio State, if I recall correctly. So that is going to be, I think, a big part of this. You're going to have to try to find some other ways to open the run game. It's how Riley Leonard got moving against Texas A&M and stuff like that in that first game. I'm expecting a similar type of game plan in terms of how they do this. By the way, both these teams' defensive coordinators announced on Wednesday finalists for the Broyles Award. Notre Dame DC Al Golden, Indiana DC Bryant Haynes, who came from James Madison. So we got another game that could be kind of low scoring here.
Yeah, in terms of the Marcus Freeman conversation here, he's another guy in the Ryan Day, James Franklin class of, like, I remember Marcus Freeman. People forget he lost his first 3 games at Notre Dame. The third one was the Marshall disaster, where Kalen LeBourne ran for, I believe, roughly 700 yards in that game and really embarrassed Notre Dame. Since then, he's done well, but it's another thing, like, maybe Clemson, last year, a couple years back, is probably his best win there. They haven't gotten into the playoff. They haven't even, Chris, you'd have to remind me, I don't even think they haven't even been close to the playoff under Marcus Freeman yet. This has been their best team by far. I don't even think they've really been sniffing it much.
I think they've been winning 9-10 games, but yeah.
That's true, but, like, not like in the playoff and, like, oh, you coughed it up. Like, they've had early season losses and people are ready to rule them out. I felt like I was the only person on planet Earth not just throwing Notre Dame to the wayside when they lost to Northern Illinois. I was like, this is still a pretty good team. If they can figure out some stuff offensively, I think they'll still be okay. And then what did they do? They figured out some stuff offensively, and they were okay. But I think this is a big game for Marcus Freeman. For either of you guys, What do you make of what he's got on the line here? It's not Ryan Day level, but in terms of how Notre Dame views him, it feels like this is a massive, massive game for him.
Well, I think you're right. I think a lot of people are forgetting, like, Marcus Freeman has done some good, but it hasn't really been good enough. And he should be in the same conversation as Ryan Day, James Franklin. But instead, right now, he's getting all the love. Like, people are talking about how great he is. You know, people are talking about he's going to be up for an NFL head coaching job next year. Like, there's a lot of good conversation around Marcus Freeman, which you can say is deserved because there's something said about winning the games on your schedule.
10-game winning streaks talk.
Yeah, but a loss like this to Indiana, the first round of the playoffs, that puts you right back in that same position of you've done some, but you haven't really done much. And then that goes to the conversation with Ryan Day. How much longer are we going to sit here doing this with the same person when we could get the same exact result with somebody else? So there's definitely pressure on Marcus Freeman. I don't think it's as much as a James Franklin or a Ryan Day, but if you don't win this game, and especially with the record that you had this year, the 12-team playoff expansion, especially for teams like you, like, there's going to be a lot of conversations that are going in the opposite direction than they are right now.
Chris, here's my
you cannot lose to Indiana in the playoff if you're the Notre Dame coach. You absolutely cannot let that happen. And when when Notre Dame lost to NIU at the beginning of the year, we had the conversation like, is Marcus Freeman the guy? We don't know. Yes, they rebounded, won everything else, and got to the playoff. Getting to the playoff and hosting a first-round game, that is like the minimum goal for Notre Dame in this 12-team field. They are at a greater advantage than anybody else in college football to make this expanded playoff. That's the baseline for what you're supposed to do. If you do that and then you lose to Indiana, that is not going to be good. Not a good look. At home, where tickets are in like the thousands of dollars. Like, they didn't even have a public sale for this game because Notre Dame sold out of them everywhere. You go into the StubHub and whatever, high hundreds and into the thousands of dollars for tickets for this game. This is the biggest ticket by far, I think, in the first round, and understandably so.
Yeah, Chris, this is kind of my feel for it. Is you're not facing run out of town levels. You did just win 11 games. You've won 10 in a row. You lose this game, high volume of grumbling going into next year. You win this game, I think you quiet most of the grumbling depending on how you go out. But you win this game, nobody's saying Marcus Freeman is the guy. I think you win a second game, then there's like a sect of the fan base who's like, we are Freeman believers now. There's no grumbling. You win 2 games, you get to the semis, then at that point, I think Marcus Freeman's approval rating is in like the 85-90 range going into next year. So it's a big 3 weeks for him, I think, where I think a lot of how he is viewed is going to be shaped in how they perform here. I think in terms of upside, does he have like the most upside of any coach coming into this playoff in terms of his status with his fan base?
No, that'd probably be James Franklin. Because I
would
think,
it? I don't know that one playoff run can erase 14 top 5 losses, Chris. I don't know if there's a lot of baggage there.
But if he can finally get over the hump, he's never gotten over the hump. He has. Yeah. I do think the upside is higher. Because if we can see that Penn State can finally be a team that gets to a semifinal or maybe makes the final, and they've got the path to do it, the bracket is very, very favorable for them. Mm-hmm. That's the expectation. The expectation for Notre Dame is beat Indiana, and we'll see if Carson Beck plays, but be competitive with Georgia. Like, I think that is the expectation. And if it's anything less than that, then you start to wonder, like, is this the guy?
Yeah.
What about Ryan Day? I mean, if they win a national championship, well, because I think
there's no upside for
No,
Ryan
I don't think there's any upside for Ryan Day.
I was going to say, here's my thought, because people like, I be around Cardell Jones, Beanie Wells. They say that beating Michigan sometimes is more important than winning a national championship. So I guess I wasn't asking it in a way of I'm saying that Ryan Day has more upside, but I'm just posing the question. So even if Ryan Day wins this national championship, he's still going to have heat on his ass next year being on the hot seat.
I got in a long argument with Ari about this last year.
Not if they win it. If they win the national championship, like, you're good until the next Michigan game. We're not talking about it. If you lose in the semifinals or anywhere before that, then yeah.
I got in a long argument with Ari last year about this because I think Ari is correct in that beating Michigan for a lot of people means more than winning a national championship. I think I am still correct in that is insane. That is insane.
Because you're not a Big Ten guy.
I know.
You got to know
this. That's a part of it. But it's like, that doesn't make sense to me because my thought was, okay, Ryan Day was still a field goal away from winning a national championship in that game against Georgia. They missed that, and it's like, well, you had them on the doorstep, and yes, you lose to these really good Michigan teams. Now, I think the loss to this last Michigan game is in a whole different class, obviously. But yeah, I don't think there's any upside for Ryan Day here. I guess maybe it's all gain for Josh Heupel, because if they lose, unless they lose like 41-10 or something, he's probably got almost no downside in this playoff. But
yeah, let's talk.
Like a deep run.
That. Downside, the teams that kind of have nothing to lose. SMU's in that boat.
Oh yeah.
Indiana's probably in that boat for sure. Arizona State, Boise State as well. Everybody else, maybe Clemson.
I was gonna say, what do we say about Clemson as far as downside, if they lose? Like, what do we say about Clemson?
I think they're still big time. So I still think that Clemson, first of all, even the most hardo Clemson guys out there would admit we probably shouldn't be here, but we're here. So we're gonna play. But I think that when you look at the talent on the roster, the performance during the season, and the outlook ahead and the recruiting, I still think there's a lot of problems here, because if you are a Clemson fan who believes, hey, we need to get back to this Clemson run that we enjoyed in, from 14 to 18 or whatever, up when we were dominant, you're not there. You're a long way from there. You needed some dramatics to beat little old SMU to win the ACC.
Well,
so
are you that far away if you get to the college football playoff?
In the 12-team era, I think you are.
Amongst everything that you're saying, I think there still should be some credit for the fact that they even got there.
There's a little credit. I still think that Georgia game at the start of the season looms large, because Georgia's the 2 seed, and they were so uncompetitive in that game. I just think that winning some games will help him. But when you look at, can we be in a 10, 11 win team annually like we were, they're so far away from that I still think there's quite a ways there. I don't know how much upside he has.
I do think one win over Texas though changes that whole thing. Like if they beat Texas, a little bit, hey, we can do this again. The belief is back there. So we'll see. Indiana, Curt Cignetti, he's already got the giant contract. He's staying. Indiana's been making huge investments in NIL. Coaching salary pools going up here. I'm very curious in this portal window and moving forward what kind of talent Curt Cignetti might be able to bring into Indiana, because they're going to have to replace a lot. Curtis Rourke is gone after this year, so are a lot of pretty good players. So I'm very curious how Indiana will be able to build off of this momentum. You have to take advantage of this game and of this season. We saw what happened to TCU. They went to the national championship, followed it up with a 5-7 season. Now they will go 8-4 this year. You kind of missed the ability to build off of that. Indiana in this portal era now, very curious how they can build off of this coming out of this game.
I'm still team enjoy the ride with Indiana. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Sustainability, all those ththings are important. But you might never have a season like this again. And Indiana
they never have had a season like this already.
Indiana has been playing with house money since 8-0 probably. And so you're not wrong. I think all those things are important. But, man, just enjoy the ride. Whatever you get out of this season, if you're Indiana, if you beat Notre Dame, man, I'm not saying storm the field. I'm just saying if you did storm the field, I wouldn't think that's the worst thing. Whatever Indiana fans are there, I feel like that'd be the funniest moment in Indiana football history if there's all this red flooding onto the green grass. I think Indiana covers. I think this is going to be kind of low scoring too. Depending on how aggressive, I think we might see some really tricky stuff from Indiana. I think we could see them do some trick plays, some interesting stuff. I think Indiana covers, but I think Notre Dame wins this game. Dame, what do you got in this one?
I'm with you. Indiana covers, Notre Dame wins, and maybe then I'll have a different opinion of them. Maybe I'll still think the exact same thing. Who knows?
Maybe. Chris, what do you got?
I think Notre Dame wins. I think Notre Dame covers, maybe wins kind of comfortably. The very few times we've seen Indiana up against a legitimate defense, it has not gone well. Michigan and Ohio State, I think that's going to be the case here. Notre Dame's defense is very, very good. However, of all the first-round games, Indiana beating Notre Dame would be the funniest result. That is the result that would draw the most reaction, I think, from everybody.
I hope they do, just to shame your father-in-law, Chris. I hope that he experiences the depths of human emotion on that Friday. I hope he goes to bed just drenched in shame of you know what?
We
staring at his degree on the wall, being like, I shouldn't have done that.
By the way, I forgot to say, we did shame him. I called him a traitor. I said he had to root for Indiana, so I am with you on that. I was just.
That's all
explaining
just
it.
a trader. We could have gone way bigger than that, Chris. But
Do
I
you
guess
know
it's
what
just
jerseys Notre Dame's wearing for this game? That's been a hot topic on this pod.
interesting.
Are they going
I
just
don't know.
traditional?
I like
or
the
they
It better
going-
be their
Big Ten
normal
game.
I was gonna say they're going traditional. Or they're going bullshit because when they go special, they go bullshit. I'm not
As
gonna
much
lie.
gold as possible. They should just wear all gold. I'd be into that.